The crowd parted like water around the small figure sprawled on the transit platform. Hundreds of beings rushed past, their boots and claws and tendrils avoiding the broken child by mere inches. She tried to push herself up with trembling arms, but her twisted legs wouldn't respond. Purple blood seeped through the torn fabric of her environmental suit. Commander Jake Morrison saw her through the viewport of the docking bay. He was supposed to board the next transport off this station. His leave was approved. Earth was waiting, but his feet stopped moving. "Sir, we need to go," Lieutenant Carla Vance said beside him. "The transport leaves in 4 minutes." Jake watched another wave of travelers flow around the alien child. A Krellin merchant stepped over her without looking down. A group of Vexian diplomats altered their path by a single degree and continued talking. The girl's large eyes, gold and wet, tracked each passerby with fading hope. "Get our gear off the transport," Jake said. "What?" "You heard me." He was already moving, pushing through the airlock into the station's main concourse. The artificial gravity felt heavy after 6 months on the light frigate. His boots hit the platform with purpose. People scattered as he cut straight through the flow of traffic. The girl looked up as his shadow fell across her. She flinched, raising one thin arm defensively. Her species had 4 fingers. Her skin was pale gray, almost translucent. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 in human years. "Easy," Jake said, dropping to one knee. "I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't understand English. Of course she didn't, but his tone seemed to register. Her arm lowered slightly. Jake keyed his comm. "Vance, get medical down here now. Tell them we have a pediatric emergency, species unknown, severe leg trauma, possible internal injuries." "Station security won't like this, sir." "I don't care what station security likes." He shrugged off his jacket and draped it over the girl's shoulders. She was shaking, whether from shock or cold he couldn't tell. When he tried to examine her legs, she whimpered and pulled away. "I know," Jake said softly. "I know it hurts, but I need to help you." Behind him, the crowd continued its endless flow. Not one being stopped, not one asked if they could assist. In a galaxy of 1,000 species and 10,000 worlds, humanity had learned one truth faster than all others. Nobody gave a damn about anyone else. The girl's eyes met his. In them, Jake saw something he recognized. The same look he'd seen in war zones across 3 systems. The look that asked a simple question: why does it have to be this way? Because they forgot, Jake whispered. But we didn't. Carla arrived with a medical kit and a hover stretcher, but no station medics followed her. Jake's jaw tightened as he worked to stabilize the girl's legs with foam splints from the kit. Each touch made her gasp, but she didn't cry out. "Tough kid." "Station medical refused the call," Carla said, her voice flat with controlled anger. "Said they don't treat unregistered aliens without prepayment. Security said if she's blocking traffic, she'll be removed to the lower decks." "The hell she will." Jake activated the stretcher and carefully lifted the girl onto it. She weighed almost nothing. Her hand clutched his jacket with desperate strength. "Sir, we're going to miss our transport. There'll be other transports. Our leave ends in 9 days. It takes 6 to get back to Earth from here." Jake looked at his second-in-command. They'd served together for 3 years. She knew him well enough to know this argument was already over. Carla sighed. "Where are we taking her?" "Find me the nearest human medical facility on this station." She checked her datapad, scrolling through listings. "There's a clinic in Section 7, Dr. Amand. Alan Pierce, retired Navy surgeon, runs a charity operation." "That'll do." They moved through the station's corridors. the stretcher humming softly as it floated between them. The girl's eyes darted everywhere, tracking threats. Smart survival instinct. This station, Nexus Outpost Meridian, was neutral ground in name only. In practice, it was where the worst elements of a dozen species came to deal in things their homeworlds wouldn't tolerate. Section 7 was deeper in the station's guts. The lighting dimmed. The air tasted recycled too many times. But the clinic sign glowed clean and bright. Pierce Medical. All species welcome. Pierce met them at the door. He was in his 60s, gray-haired and lean, with the kind of steady hands that came from cutting into people under fire. He took one look at the girl and started barking orders. Exam room 2. Get her on the table. I need full scans before we do anything else. His eyes found Jake's. Who's paying? I am. You know what xenobiology treatment costs? I'll figure it out. Pierce nodded once, satisfied. Then let's get to work. The clinic was small, but equipped with multi-species medical gear. Pierce's assistant, a young human woman named Lauren Kelly, moved with efficient precision. They cut away the girl's suit carefully, revealing the extent of her injuries. Both legs were shattered below the knee. Old injuries, Pierce determined. Days old? Maybe a week. Healed wrong because no one had set them. The bones had started to fuse at cruel angles. She would never walk again without intervention. This wasn't an accident, Pierce said quietly, studying the scans. Someone did this to her. See these fractures? Deliberate, methodical. Jake felt something cold settle in his chest. Can you fix it? Fix it? No. These bones are already calcifying in the wrong position. I'd have to re-break everything, reset from scratch. The pain would be immense. And her species has a different skeletal structure than anything in my database. I'd be operating blind. So what are you saying? Pierce pulled off his gloves and faced Jake directly. I'm saying this child needs reconstructive surgery that I can't provide. She needs a specialist with xenobiological training. The nearest one is 3 stations away. The cost would be around 40,000 credits, plus transport, plus aftercare. Carla made a small sound. A commander's salary was good, but not that good. The girl's golden eyes moved between them. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. She'd heard it before. The tone that said, sorry, can't help, too expensive, too complicated, not my problem. Her hand released Jake's jacket. Wait, Jake said. He pulled up his personal account on his datapad. His savings, 10 years of service, money set aside for a house someday, for retirement, for a future that suddenly seemed less important than the present. I've got 18,000 in my account, he said. Carla, she didn't hesitate. 11,000. That's 29 Pierce. What can you do with 29,000 credits? The doctor studied them both for a long moment. Then he looked at the girl on his table. She'd pulled Jake's jacket over herself like a blanket, watching them with eyes that expected nothing and hoped for everything. I can do reconstructive surgery here, Pierce said slowly. I'll need to fabricate custom implants, bone grafts. It'll take time, weeks of recovery, and there's no guarantee it'll work perfectly. But she'll walk? If everything goes right, yes, she'll walk. Jake extended his hand. Then let's do it. Pierce shook it. You're either very brave or very stupid. I'm human, Jake said. Same thing. Lauren brought the girl a nutrition pack and a sedative. As the medicine took effect, the child's eyes finally closed. For the first time since Jake had seen her, she looked peaceful. One problem, Pierce said. Someone needs to stay with her during recovery. She'll need physical therapy, support. This isn't a long-term care facility. Carla looked at Jake. Jake looked at the girl. "Cancel our leave," he said. "Sir, the Navy won't." "I said cancel it. I'll deal with command." Outside the clinic, the station's endless commerce continued. Deals were made, profits were counted. 1,000 species pursuing 1,000 interests, and not one of them would stop for a broken child bleeding on a platform. But 2 humans had, and that was going to change everything. The surgery took 14 hours. Jake and Carla waited in the clinic's small reception area, surviving on bad coffee and military rations. Every hour, Lauren emerged with updates, complications, adjustments. Pierce was fabricating bone supports from synthetic materials, retrofitting human medical tech for an alien physiology he was learning in real time. When Pierce finally stepped out, his scrubs were stained and his face was exhausted, but he was smiling. "She's stable," the implants took. "Her body isn't rejecting the grafts." Jake felt tension drain from his shoulders. "When will she wake up?" "Few hours." "But Jake, she's going to be in significant pain for days, maybe weeks. Her species doesn't process standard painkillers the same way humans do. I've synthesized something that should work, but it's going to be rough. Can we see her?" Pierce led them to recovery. The girl lay on a bed designed for human proportions, looking even smaller than before. Her legs were wrapped in regenerative casts that glowed with soft blue light. Monitors tracked vital signs Jake didn't understand, but the steady rhythm suggested life continuing forward. Her eyes opened when they entered, gold irises fixed on Jake with immediate recognition. "Hey there," he said softly, moving to her bedside. "You're going to be okay." She tried to speak. The sounds were musical, like wind chimes in a minor key. Carla activated her translator unit, but the device just buzzed with static. "Language not in the database," Carla said. "Not surprising. There are over 6,000 known languages in the galaxy." The girl kept trying, her voice growing more desperate. She was asking something, pleading something. Jake took her hand, 4 fingers wrapped around his 5. "I don't know what you're saying, but you're safe now. Nobody's going to hurt you." She fell silent, studying his face. Then, slowly, she nodded. Understanding didn't need translation. Over the next 3 days, they established a routine. Jake and Carla took shifts at the clinic. They bought clothes that fit her small frame. They learned she liked sweet foods and hated anything with a strong smell. Lauren taught them basic care routines for the regenerative casts. But the station wasn't finished with them. On the 4th day, 2 Vexian enforcers appeared at the clinic door. They were tall, insectoid creatures with multifaceted eyes and voices that clicked like metal on stone. "We are here for the Lyrian child," the lead enforcer announced. Pierce stepped between them and the recovery room. "This is a medical facility. You have no authority here." "We have every authority. The child is property of the Vexian Trade Consortium. She was being transported for labor placement when she escaped." Jake's blood went cold. "Labor placement? You mean slavery." "We mean legal commerce. The Lyrian homeworld signed treaties allowing." "I don't care what treaties say." "That's a child." The enforcer's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. "Human morality is not universal law. The child will be returned to consortium custody. Compensation will be provided for medical expenses." Carla's hand moved toward her sidearm. Jake caught her eye and shook his head slightly. "Not yet." "Show me the documentation," Jake said. The enforcer produced a datapad. The contracts were there, stamped with official seals. The girl's people, the Lyrians, had apparently sold their own children to pay off planetary debts. Completely legal under galactic commercial law. Jake read every word. Then he handed the datapad back. This contract is for a healthy worker. Your property, as you call her, has severe leg injuries. According to Section 12 of your own consortium regulations, damaged goods can be refused by the purchaser. The enforcer's eyes glittered. The damage occurred during her unauthorized departure. She is still consortium property. Then you're welcome to take her. But first you'll need to pay her medical bills. 40,000 credits for emergency reconstructive surgery. Jake smiled coldly. We can wait while you arrange the transfer. The Vexians conferred in their clicking language. Jake knew what they were calculating. The girl's labor value versus the medical costs, the economics of cruelty. The consortium declines financial responsibility for unauthorized medical intervention, the lead enforcer finally said. However, we will still claim the asset. No, you won't. Pierce stepped forward. She's my patient. Moving her now would cause severe medical complications. I'm invoking the Medical Sanctuary Act. She stays here until I clear her for release. That act applies only to refugees seeking asylum. Then I'm declaring her a refugee. As the ranking medical officer in this facility, that's my right under station charter. The enforcers didn't move for a long moment. Then the leader spoke with barely contained menace. The consortium will file a formal complaint. This matter is not concluded. They left, their footsteps echoing down the corridor. That bought us maybe a week, Pierce said. The consortium has lawyers, good ones. They'll find a way around the sanctuary declaration. Jake pulled out his comm unit. Then we need to find her real sanctuary. Carla, start researching Lyrian refugee status. See if there are any human colonies that have anti-slavery statutes strong enough to protect her. On it. Lauren appeared from the recovery room. She heard the whole thing. She's terrified. Jake went to her. The girl was sitting up in bed, her casts glowing steadily. Tears ran down her gray cheeks. She spoke in that musical language, the same phrase over and over. I wish we knew what she was saying, Carla muttered. Jake didn't need translation. He'd heard the same tone in 100 desperate voices across a dozen war zones. She was saying, please. She was saying, don't let them take me. She was saying, I don't want to go back. You're not going anywhere, Jake told her. I promise. She grabbed his hand with both of hers, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a universe that kept betraying her. Outside the clinic, station life continued its merciless flow. But inside these walls, two humans, a doctor and his assistant, were drawing a line. Not because it was easy, not because it was profitable, not because anyone would thank them, because it was right, and humanity had learned long ago that when you stand for what's right, the universe has a choice, bend or break against you. The consortium was about to learn which one it would be. The legal assault began exactly 6 hours later. Pierce's clinic was served with 14 separate injunctions, each from a different galactic regulatory body. The consortium had called in favors across half the station's governing council. They're claiming we're harboring stolen property, Carla said, scrolling through the documents. Operating an unlicensed refugee center, violating commercial transport regulations. They've even got the station health authority questioning Pierce's medical license. Jake sat beside the girl's bed. She was sleeping fitfully, her small body fighting pain and medication in equal measure. Every few minutes, she'd whimper, and he'd squeeze her hand until she settled. How long do we have? Station court hearing in 36 hours. If we lose, security will enforce the extraction immediately. Pierce entered with fresh medication. There's more. The consortium put out word we're interfering with legal commerce. 3 of my supply vendors just canceled their contracts. Lauren's getting threats on her personal comm. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. Don't be. I've been looking for something worth fighting for since I retired. Pierce checked the girl's vitals. She's healing faster than I expected. Lyrian physiology is remarkable. In another week, she might be able to stand with assistance. We don't have a week. Carla looked up from her datapad. Actually, we might. I found something. There's a human colony called New Haven. 3 systems from here. They've got ironclad anti-slavery laws written into their colonial charter. Any being who reaches their territory is automatically granted protection. Can we get her there before the hearing? Not legally. The consortium has flagged her in every transport database. The moment we try to book passage, station security gets an alert. Jake thought through the options. Every legal avenue led to a wall. The consortium owned too many officials, had too many treaties backing their claim. The galaxy's laws were written by those who benefited from them. Then we don't go legal, he said quietly. Carla met his eyes. Sir, what you're suggesting is, I know what it is, but I'm not handing her over to slavers because some treaty says children are property. We could lose our commissions, face criminal charges. I know. She was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled grimly. Well, I wasn't planning on making Admiral anyway. What's the plan? We need a ship, something fast enough to outrun station security and make the jump to New Haven before they can lock down the sector. I might know someone, Pierce said. Navy buddy of mine runs cargo routes through this sector. Owes me for a surgery I did on his daughter. Ship's called the Wanderer. Captain's name is Frank Russo. Can you reach him? I can try. While Pierce made calls, Jake focused on the girl. She'd woken during their conversation, her golden eyes tracking their movements with sharp intelligence. She understood they were planning something. She understood it was dangerous. She spoke in her musical language, a single word repeated. I wish we had a translator for Lyrian, Carla said. Lauren appeared in the doorway. Actually, we might. I put out a call on the Xenolinguistics Network. There's a professor at the University District who specializes in rare languages, Dr. Nina Cross. She's willing to come here. Along. She's on her way. Doc Cross arrived 20 minutes later. She was a woman in her 40s, with kind eyes and arms full of recording equipment. She sat up beside the girl's bed and began speaking in a dozen different language patterns, watching for recognition. On the 7th attempt, the girl's eyes widened. She responded immediately, words tumbling out in a rush. Cross listened intently, her translator device processing the sounds. Slowly, words began to form in English. Her name is Kira, Cross said softly. She's asking if you're really going to help her. She's asking if this is real or if she's dreaming again. Jake leaned close. Tell her it's real. Tell her we're going to get her somewhere safe. Cross translated. Kira's response came quickly. She says others tried to help before. They failed. She says the consortium always wins. Tell her we're human. We don't know how to quit. When Cross translated that, Kira did something unexpected. She laughed. It was a small sound, fragile as glass, but it was genuine. She says humans are either very brave or very crazy, Cross said. Yeah, Jake replied. We get that a lot. Pierce returned with news. Russo's in. He'll dock at Bay 47 in 8 hours, but he says station security has been asking about ships matching the Wanderer's profile. They might be watching him. Then we create a distraction. With what? Jake pulled up his comm and scrolled through his contacts. He found the name he wanted and hit send. The call connected after 3 rings. Morrison? That really you? The voice was rough, familiar. Lieutenant Danny Shaw, Jake's old squad mate from the Frontier Wars. Need a favor, Shaw? Name it. You still in touch with the guys from 2nd Battalion? Most of them. Why? How many are on the station right now? There was a pause. Then Shaw laughed. You're planning something stupid, aren't you? Probably. Count me in. I'll make calls. How many you need? As many as you can find. And Shaw? This might cost us everything. Brother, I've been bored for 3 years. Let's do something worth remembering. Over the next 6 hours, they gathered in Pierce's clinic. 15 humans, all former military, all veterans of humanity's worst conflicts. They came because Jake called. They stayed when they learned what they were protecting. One by one, they met Kira. They saw her broken legs wrapped in glowing casts. They heard her story through Cross's translations. They learned about the consortium's business model, about planets so desperate they sold their children, about a galaxy that treated the weak as commodities, and one by one they volunteered. Here's the play, Jake said, spreading a station map across Pierce's desk. We move Kira to Bay 47 during shift change, security's thinnest then, but we need the consortium's attention elsewhere. Shaw grinned. I've got an idea about that. Remember that bar in Section 3? The one where the Vexian merchants drink? Shaw, we're not starting a bar fight. Why not? They can't chase us and arrest us at the same time. It was reckless, it was dangerous. It violated about 40 station regulations and probably a few galactic laws. Do it, Jake said. Kira watched them plan with wide eyes. Cross sat beside her, translating the key points. Finally, Kira spoke. She wants to know why, Cross said. Why you're risking everything for her. Jake looked at the small alien girl with her shattered legs and her golden eyes full of hope she was afraid to feel. Tell her because she's a kid who got hurt and nobody helped. Tell her that's not acceptable to us. Tell her that humans have a rule. You don't leave people behind, Cross translated. Kira was silent for a long time. Then she reached out and touched Jake's face with her four-fingered hand. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. She says you're the first kind thing the universe has ever given her, Cross said, and there were tears in the professor's eyes. She says she'll remember this. She says her people will remember this. We just need her to survive this, Jake said. Everything else is tomorrow's problem. But tomorrow was coming fast, and the consortium wasn't going to let her go without a fight. The plan went into motion at 2200 hours station time. Shaw and 8 veterans hit 3 different bars in Section 3 simultaneously. Within minutes, carefully provoked altercations erupted across the merchant district. Station security scrambled to contain what looked like a coordinated human riot. Jake carried Kira through the service corridors wrapped in blankets to hide her identity. Carla and Pierce flanked them, medical scanners ready in case anyone questioned why they were transporting a patient. Cross followed with the translation gear. Lauren had stayed behind to manage the clinic and maintain the illusion of normal operations. Bay 47 was on the station's lower ring, where cargo ships docked and security cameras had convenient blind spots. The Wanderer sat in her berth like a promise, engines already warming up. Captain Russo met them at the airlock. He was stocky and gray-bearded, with the weathered look of someone who'd spent more time in space than on planets. Pierce vouched for you, Russo said, eyeing the bundle in Jake's arms. That's the only reason I'm here. This is going to cost me contracts. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just get aboard. We've got maybe 10 minutes before security realizes what's happening. The ship's interior was cramped but clean. Russo's crew consisted of his daughter Maya and an engineer named Kent Bailey. They'd converted the cargo hold into a makeshift medical bay. Jake laid Kira on the bunk they'd prepared. Her eyes were wide with fear and wonder. She'd never been on a human ship before. We're going to jump as soon as everyone's aboard, Russo said. New Haven is 3 jumps away, 14 hours if we push the engines. But you need to understand something. The moment we break dock, I'm a smuggler. My ship gets flagged. I can't come back to this station. Then why are you doing this? Jake asked. Russo looked at Kira. Because my daughter's 11. Because when I look at that kid, I see Maya. Because Pierce saved my girl's life when no one else would try. He paused. And because somebody's got to remind the galaxy that humans don't play by their rules. The comm crackled. Shaw's voice came through rough with exertion. Morrison, we've got a problem. Consortium Security deployed combat units. This isn't station security anymore. They brought their own enforcement. Through the bay's viewport, Jake saw figures moving through the docking area. Tall, armored, carrying weapons that glowed with charged energy. Thexian military contractors, the consortium's private army.
How many?
At least 20. They're sweeping the bays systematically. You've got maybe 5 minutes, Russo cursed. We can't launch with them this close. They'll blow us out of the dock. Then we hold them off. Until you can. Jake turned to Carla. Get everyone aboard? Now. Sir, you can't fight military contractors with... That's an order, Lieutenant. She hesitated, then saluted. Yes, sir. Pierce stepped forward. I'm staying too. Doc, you're not combat trained. No, but I'm old and stubborn, and this is my fight as much as yours. Cross joined them. Someone needs to stay with Kira. Keep her calm. Maya can handle the medical equipment, but Kira trusts me. Jake wanted to argue, but there wasn't time. The contractors were 3 bays away. 2 bays. Their armor reflected the harsh dock lighting, making them look like metal insects. Shaw, fall back to Bay 47. We're making our stand here. Copy that. Coming to you. Shaw and his team arrived 90 seconds later, breathing hard but grinning like madmen. They'd armed themselves with whatever they could grab, cargo tools, emergency equipment, 1 rifle someone had liberated from a very surprised security guard. This is insane, one of the veterans said. A woman named Kelsey Rhodes? I love it. The contractors reached the bay entrance. Their leader stepped forward, mandibles clicking mechanically through his suit's speakers. Surrender the Lyrian asset. This is your only warning. Jake stood at the front of his makeshift squad. 15 humans against 20 armored professionals. Bad odds by any measure. Terrible odds, actually. Here's our counteroffer, Jake said. Turn around and leave. The contractor's weapon charged with an audible whine. You will comply. See, that's the thing about humans, Jake replied. We really don't like being told what to do. The first shot came from the contractor line. Shaw dove left, pulling Rhodes with him. The energy bolt scorched the deck where they'd been standing. Then all hell broke loose. Jake's team scattered, using the bay's cargo containers for cover. They returned fire with their improvised arsenal. It wasn't enough to penetrate the contractor's armor, but it was enough to make them hesitate, to slow their advance. Behind the defensive line, Russo worked frantically on the launch sequence. I need 3 more minutes. We'll get you 3 minutes, Jake shouted back. A contractor rounded the container Jake was using for cover. Jake slammed a cargo hook into the joint of the armor, right where the helmet met the chest plate. The contractor went down hard. Jake grabbed the fallen weapon and finally had something that could actually hurt them. Shaw coordinated the defense with hand signals learned in a dozen combat zones. They weren't soldiers anymore, hadn't been for years, but the training came back like muscle memory, suppressing fire, flanking movements, making every shot count because they didn't have ammunition to waste. Pierce dragged a wounded veteran to safety. Kent Bailey, the engineer, had rigged the bay's cargo lifts to create additional barriers. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but they were fighting on a battlefield they turned into a maze. And they were buying time. 2 minutes, Russo called out. A contractor's shot caught Rhodes in the shoulder. She went down screaming. Kelsey was at her side immediately. applying emergency aid while still laying down cover fire. The contractors adapted, spreading out, using their superior equipment to outflank the human positions. Jake knew they couldn't hold much longer. This was a delaying action, nothing more. 1 minute! Shaw lobbed a cargo canister filled with industrial foam into the contractor formation. It exploded, temporarily blinding 3 of them. The humans pressed the advantage, driving the enemy back toward the bay entrance. Inside the Wanderer, Kira watched through a porthole, her small hands pressed against the glass. Cross held her, whispering reassurances that neither of them believed. "Engines are hot!" Russo shouted. "Everyone aboard now!" Jake's team fell back in sequence, covering each other's retreat. Shaw was the last one moving, firing his stolen rifle until it clicked empty. A contractor's shot caught him in the leg. He stumbled. Jake grabbed him, hauling him toward the airlock. "Not today, Shaw. Not today." The contractors surged forward, sensing victory. But they made a mistake. They got too close to the Wanderer's engines. Russo triggered the thruster wash. Superheated plasma erupted from the ship's drives, turning the immediate area into an inferno. The contractors scattered, their advance broken. "Go, go, go!" Jake hauled Shaw up the ramp. Pierce and the others were already inside. The airlock sealed with a heavy clang. "We're clear!" Jake shouted. The Wanderer's engines roared to full power. The ship lifted from the deck, pivoted on its axis, and punched through the bay's atmospheric shield into open space. Alarms shrieked across the station. Security ships scrambled to intercept, but Russo was already plotting the jump. Coordinates locked. Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. Space folded around them. The universe compressed, twisted, and released. The Wanderer emerged in a different system, light years from Nexus Outpost Meridian. In the cargo bay turned medical center, Kira wept with relief. Cross held her, translating as the small girl spoke. "She says thank you. She says she never thought anyone would fight for her." Jake knelt beside the bunk, exhausted and bleeding from a dozen minor wounds. "Tell her the fight's not over. Tell her we're taking her home. A real home where no one can ever hurt her again." When Cross translated, Kira reached out with both hands. Jake took them gently, careful of her healing legs. She spoke one more phrase. Cross smiled through her tears. "She says humans are the galaxy's gift to broken things." Shaw, being bandaged by Maya, laughed weakly. "Yeah, well, someone's got to be." Outside the ship, stars streamed past. 14 hours to New Haven. 14 hours to Sanctuary. Behind them, the consortium would be mobilizing. Lawyers, bounty hunters, political pressure. They wouldn't stop. The galaxy's laws were on their side, but the galaxy was about to learn something important. Laws only matter if people agree to follow them, and humanity had a long, proud history of looking at unjust laws and saying no. The real fight was just beginning. The Wanderer crossed into New Haven space 13 hours and 42 minutes later. 3 consortium ships had tried to intercept them during the journey. Russo had outrun 2 and outmaneuvered the 3rd through an asteroid field that should have torn them apart. New Haven's orbital station appeared on the view screen, a gleaming structure built by human hands and governed by human principles. The comm crackled with the station controller's voice. "Wanderer, you're flagged in multiple systems. State your business." Russo glanced at Jake, who moved to the comm. "This is Commander Jake Morrison, Earth Navy. We're carrying a refugee seeking asylum under New Haven's colonial charter. One miner, species Lyrian, fleeing forced labor." Silence stretched for 5 seconds. 10. Then a different voice came through, older, and carrying authority. Commander Morrison, this is Governor Patricia Cole. We're aware of the consortium's pursuit. Bring your ship to dock. You're under New Haven protection now. The words hit like a physical weight lifting. Shaw let out a whoop. Rhodes, arm in a sling, grinned through her pain. Even Russo allowed himself a small smile. In the medical bay, Cross translated for Kira. The girl's golden eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't from fear. Her musical voice rose in a question. She's asking if it's real, Cross said. If she's truly safe. Jake sat beside her bunk. Yeah, kid, you're safe. Nobody's taking you anywhere you don't want to go. Kira launched herself at him, wrapping thin arms around his neck despite the pain it must have caused her healing legs. She spoke rapidly, words tumbling over each other. Cross wiped her eyes. She says she'll tell everyone, every Lyrian, every broken child, in every dark corner of the galaxy. She says she'll tell them that humans help, that humans fight, that humans don't leave people behind. The docking procedure took 20 minutes. When the airlock opened, Governor Cole stood waiting with a medical team and 3 officials from the Refugee Services Division. She was a woman in her 50s, with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen hardship and refused to bend to it. She looked at Kira, taking in the regenerative casts, the too small body wrapped in Jake's oversized jacket, the gold eyes that had seen too much suffering. "Welcome to New Haven, Kira," Cole said, cross-translated, and Kira nodded shyly. "We've prepared housing for her in our pediatric care facility," Cole continued. "Full medical support, education, everything she needs. And, Commander, there are 7 more Lyrian children who escaped the consortium over the past year. They're already here. Kira will have others who understand what she's been through." Jake hadn't expected that. The idea that Kira wouldn't be alone, that she'd have others like her, made something tight in his chest finally release. "There's the matter of the consortium's legal claims," one of the officials said. "They'll push hard on this. They have treaties." Cole's expression hardened. "Let them push. New Haven doesn't recognize treaties that treat children as property. Our charter supersedes galactic commercial law within our territory. We'll fight this in every court necessary. It could affect trade relationships, economic sanctions. Then we'll deal with that too. Some things matter more than economics." The medical team moved Kira to a hover chair designed for her species. As they prepared to take her to the care facility, she looked back at Jake. She spoke and cross-translated one final time. She says she'll never forget. She says when she can walk again, really walk, the first thing she'll do is come find you and show you. "I'd like that," Jake said, his voice rough. They watched her go, surrounded by medical staff who actually cared, heading toward a future that didn't involve pain and exploitation. Governor Cole turned to Jake and his team. "You're all heroes. You know that, right?" "We're just people who couldn't walk away," Jake replied. "That's what makes you heroes. The galaxy is full of people who can walk away, who do walk away, every single day." She paused. "The consortium will want blood for this. They'll come after you, legally, maybe even physically. New Haven can offer you protection if you want to stay." Jake looked at his team. Shaw, Rhodes, Pierce, all the others who'd risked everything for a child they'd never met. Carla stood beside him, steady as always. "We appreciate the offer," Jake said. "But we're Navy. We've got jobs to get back to. Courts-martial to face, probably. The Navy should give you medals, not courts-martial. Maybe. But that's not why we did it." Cole smiled. "I know. That's why it matters." She pulled out a datapad. "Before you go, there's something you should see. This started transmitting about an hour ago." She activated the screen. It showed a news report already spreading across the galactic net. the story of a human commander who'd bankrupted himself to save an alien child, of humans who'd fought consortium security with cargo tools and sheer determination, of a ship captain who'd sacrificed his business to run a blockade. The report had sparked something. On a dozen worlds, in 100 stations, humans were sharing the story. More than that, non-humans were sharing it too. Species that had their own grievances with the consortium, their own children lost to legal slavery, their own reasons to hate a system that valued profit over life. "You started a movement," Cole said quietly. "People are calling it the Kira Protocol. Ships are refusing to transport consortium labor contracts. 3 planetary governments have launched investigations. It's small, but it's growing." Jake watched the reports scroll past. Messages of support, donations to refugee funds, humans and aliens alike, standing up and saying, "Enough." "One kid," Shaw said wonderingly. "We saved one kid, and look what happened." "You saved the first kid," Cole corrected, "the one who proved it could be done. That's always the hardest one." The Wanderer departed 6 hours later, headed back toward Earth. The journey would take 11 days, and Jake honestly didn't know what waited at the other end. Commendations or criminal charges, honor or disgrace. He found he didn't particularly care. Carla joined him in the observation deck as the stars streamed past. "No regrets?" she asked. Jake thought about Kira's golden eyes, the way she'd laughed when Cross had translated his comment about humans being crazy, the relief on her face when she'd realized she was finally, truly safe. "Not even one," he said. Somewhere behind them, on New Haven Station, a small Lyrian girl was taking her first steps on legs that would never be broken again. She was surrounded by others like her, by staff who cared, by a future that belonged to her and no one else. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, on ships and stations and planets across the galaxy, people were learning a simple truth: that mercy wasn't weakness, that kindness wasn't foolishness, that sometimes the most revolutionary act in an unjust universe was simply refusing to walk past someone who needed help. The consortium would adapt. They always did. But they'd learned something too. They'd learned that humanity didn't care about treaties or profit margins or commercial law when it came to protecting the vulnerable. They'd learned that humans were either very brave or very crazy. And in the end, it was the same thing.